What's MMOs? I'm your host, Mystic Raven. All right, so we got very little changes for the PTS patch notes, but one of the changes that kind of caught my eye and I had to go ahead and test is a Yandir's Might because I use this set. Fix an issue where the weapon damage from Giant's Endurance did not apply to your abilities. This set now grants Giant's Endurance for 5 seconds per stack rather than indefinitely. This set no longer requires you to have 5 pieces active to retain the stack. Never did anyways, since they're not permanent. So, the set no longer requires you to retain the stack. Oh, wait a minute. I'll have to check that out. So, basically, I think it's what it's saying. You can swap and still retain the stack. Okay, so let's check that out. Okay. So they did kind of fix that. Okay. But you still only have a couple seconds. Right? Anything you lay over here, once it crits, you get 4 seconds to apply. Okay, that's actually cool. I was backbarring it anyways. So they're just kind of confirming that you can get the back bar, but I'm usually activating my Giant's Endurance anyways. So one of the things that I wanted to check was how this change implemented the rotation, the swap. Now, I do kind of want to go over also. So my build will work. Hold on. The stack of the... So I'm able to get up to a 69.2 with this current build. But the major thing about this is, and I do want to point this out, we are able to, get a little bit more into the penetration due to the light armor passive changes, and I get up to a little bit more of the critical due to light armor. But the problem of it is currently what we're going to have to do is glyph 1 health, because as soon as all these buffs drop off, because it applies the scale, we're under 20k. So that's going to be relevant when it comes to, whether you do a 4-man trial, whatever. So, my recommendation, because nobody's going to go back probably to, Eben. It's more than likely not going to happen. I don't anticipate it to. I haven't really messed around with too much of the transmutation yet. I need to. I just wanted to check this out. But what's more than likely going to happen is glyphing one of your pieces to offset that difference due to that configuration. So we got a couple seconds left. We'll let everything drop off because we're still at 25, but it will be down to 18. I'll also go over how these things are going to be implemented and whatever, as far as once again, force damage and all of that, those factors as well. So if this ever wants to drop, currently in a trial scenario, we can get away with very little pen. All have to do is just make sure we have enough weapon damage to create the force scenario. So we would go to the jewelry, make sure everything's infused, except one bloodthirsty. I keep one bloodthirsty. I think that's a good call. We really do want to scale up as best as we can. That would tell you to go all 3. I'll never make that recommendation, but whatever. Okay. So. And then, I need jewelry. We want all the physical harm ones. Did I grab the right ones? Yeah. All right. So as you guys can see, my health's below 20, right? Because I'm not using the one piece of heavy. And why? Well, it's kind of very simple, because I'm going to be using that light piece due to the passives, right? Due to these new passives. So we're going to get, light. We're going to get critical rating of 219, an additional 219, but we're also going to get a 939 towards the pen. Now, if you're not in a trial scenario with a build like this, you would use the lever, because that would go ahead and increase our critical value, or I mean our penetrating value, not critical. Our critical value to 68. It's going to drop our weapon critical. But when I'm in a trial scenario, I don't need that much penetration. Why? Because of those associated values. So then I can go with the Thief Mundus, right? Because we're doing the force damage. Because we just will scale up the weapon damage considerably. And then when we come back in, we're almost at 7,000 weapon damage. So anything past 6,500 is the least amount of penetration we need. And then we're able to hit those other values with things like, you know, the kilt. Just trying to get the stacks on the kilt. So they're at 69. And pretty much once we get a full thing, we can almost push up to a 70 critical value, right? And then maintain our medium armor passive of critical damage output by 12%. So, but as you guys can see, my health is a factor. So we would honestly have to enchant 1 health. So we're almost at 19 something, because if we're under that, if we are, that's problematic in 4-man. It's not so much in trial scenario, because even if you're low, usually a stack, you know, whatever, I still would make the recommendation. People would be like, well, you can change food. Why change food? Don't change the food. Just glyph one heavy into the health, right? Because it's the bigger piece. We still get the Undaunted passive up to 4%, right? But we don't want to cut down on those critical or those damaging modifiers. That's why we're not going to go back to the 5-1-1 configuration in this scenario. So we'll still get a 4% towards the max health and max stamina, but we're scaling what? Weapon damage. So we're not looking to scale on a stamina. There are certain builds that you could scale stamina, so there are always exceptions. But to drop that, you know, that health pool, people would say, well, just use, you know, a food with a health base. Well, that's problematic as well, because when we take a look at the food type I'm utilizing, I'm getting a better recovery and a better scale from dual food versus a tri. So why not reduce, you know, marginalize to its effectiveness to get around the 19 point something. Sure, you're not going to hit it around 20k. You got to put a little bit more faith into your healer, but I want to also make the recommendation of dropping down below the 19 something, because certain mechanics can be problematic, and we've been down that road. I remember when people used to roll 16k health and they're like, Mystic, don't know, but now 20k is usually the standard. I've told people, I said it, whatever. Look, 19.9. So we're right under that marker. So my recommendation is not to drop the food, but more or less put the light piece of slime crawl, or in mag scenario, the medium piece of slime crawl to max health instead of dropping the food type. You'll be able to save better. And once again, when you're in a 4-man on a stam tune, we would go ahead and associate the lover Mundus, but if we're in a trial scenario, we could afford to take the thief. And there you guys have it. Said and done. Over and over again. So, for anybody who's wanting to know, how do I reconfigure after all these changes? The only thing that you're most likely going to do, like I said, you're going to change the slime crawl from a heavy piece, right, to the opposite armor type. If you're light, you're going to grab a medium. If you're medium, you're going to grab a light, right? Pretty much, you're going to stay dual food. You just cliff it health. And everything looks good on Yanders. So if you're using Yanders, no panic. All right, there you guys have it. Said and done again and again and again. I came to win. Thank you. As always, I'm Mr. Craven. This is Mystics MMOs. Have a good one, y'all.